Hurricane Beryl batters Jamaica with life-threatening wind and storm surge.
I am now declaring the whole of Jamaica to be a disaster area.
The deadly, powerful storm ravaging the Caribbean and knocking out power.
So you're stranded?
Yes. Tonight, we are tracking the new path of the hurricane and the devastation it's leaving behind. The CBS Evening News starts now. Good evening, I'm Adriana Diaz in for Nora O'Donnell. We will take you to Jamaica to show you the deadly path of Hurricane Beryl as it roars across the Caribbean. But first, President Joe Biden and Vice President Kamala Harris met tonight with more than 20 Democratic governors at the White House. The pivotal meeting comes as concern and defections grow within his own party after that disastrous debate performance. But the president tonight is defiant, spending the day talking to campaign staffers, congressional leaders, and radio hosts.
I had a bad night. And the fact of the matter is that, I screwed up. I made a mistake. That's 90 minutes on stage. Look at what I've done in 3.5 years.
CBS's Weijia Jiang reports from the White House on how the president is working to prove he's up to the job for another 4 years.
Tonight, President Biden is trying to squash doubts about his re-election efforts, telling campaign staffers on a call, "Let me say this as clearly as I possibly can and as simply and straightforward as I can. I am running. No one's pushing me out. I'm not leaving." On the campaign trail in Michigan, First Lady Jill Biden stressed the same.
Joe is the Democratic nominee, and he is going to beat Donald Trump.
But today, a second House Democrat called for Biden to step aside, reportedly Arizona's Raul Grijalva, and Massachusetts Congressman Seth Moulton said all viable options should be on the table. Now Biden is scrambling for party support with personal outreach to leaders on Capitol Hill and a meeting with Democratic governors at the White House late this evening.
I'm here to tell you today, President Joe Biden is in it to win it. And all of us said we pledged our support to him.
Nearly 1 week after Biden's disastrous debate performance, he is blaming it on jet lag. At a fundraiser, Biden said, "I decided to travel around the world a couple times. Then I almost fell asleep on stage." Biden traveled to France, Italy, and California the first half of June, but he returned to Washington 11 days before the debate.
It's not an excuse, but it's an explanation.
The White House says Biden wants to turn the page.
Is President Biden considering stepping down?
Absolutely not.
Is there anything, Karine, that would change his mind?
Look, I cannot lay out something that would change the president's mind. He has been very clear.
Tonight, the Biden campaign is out with a new fundraising email. Subject line, "I'm running," from President Biden. Earlier today, a morale boost from White House Chief of Staff Jeff Zients, who held an all-staff call urging officials here to, quote, "stay together and have each other's back." Adriana.
Weijia Jiang, busy day at the White House today. Thank you. Turning now to Hurricane Beryl and the triple weather threat in the forecast. The monstrous Category 4 storm is slamming Jamaica with 140-mile-per-hour winds. Jamaica's prime minister has declared the entire island a disaster area as residents flee the coasts and with power knocked out to thousands. In Northern California, a massive wildfire has burned thousands of acres and forced thousands more to evacuate. And more than a dozen states are under excessive heat warnings with potential record-breaking temperatures expected through the weekend. But first, more on Hurricane Beryl from CBS's Tom Hansen in Montego Bay, Jamaica.
Hurricane Beryl swiped the southern coast of Jamaica with such ferocity it ripped away roofs, downed power lines, and uprooted trees. Downgraded from a Category 4, Beryl still packed a powerful punch, bringing strong winds, heavy rains, and storm surge, causing flooding and destruction across the western Caribbean island.
This is what conditions in a Category 4 feel like. We are being pelted with rain. You can see palm trees are being bent over. We've already seen a couple fall down. We're hunkering down because it is just too unsafe to be on the ground in this ferocious storm.
The The winds were so fierce, a portion of this roof was blown off at the International Airport in Kingston, leaving a large gaping hole. The capital of Kingston sits on the coast, and the mayor was begging people to leave on buses ready to head inland.
Even if it don't hit us directly, right. And we are about preserving people's life.
But despite warnings to evacuate, some residents still hunkered down in their homes, prepared for the storm.
I have no control over what is coming, so I just have to pray that all people of Jamaica is safe.
And Adriana, this storm is far from over. You can see it behind me lashing the coast. Now the storm will make its way away from Jamaica overnight. Then it will set its sights on the Cayman Islands and the Yucatan Peninsula. That's where experts say it could lose some steam. Adriana.
Tom Hansen, stay safe. Thanks to you and your crew for being there. For more on Hurricane Beryl's track and when we could feel its effect here in the U.S., let's bring in CBS New York's Lonnie Quinn. Good evening, Lonnie.
Hey, good evening to you, Adriana. Look, we have not had a landfall in Jamaica, but boy, it's close. That eye is just south of the south shore of Jamaica, and the worst part of a hurricane is the northern eye wall and anywhere just north and east of that, and that's what the South Shore has been dealing with all day. They'll deal with it all night as well. By tonight, they'll be out, by later tonight, they'll be out of hurricane conditions. But if you take a look at the track, yep, it's the Cayman Islands early tomorrow morning, probably a Cat 3, and then you're going to get to Friday morning, somewhere around Tulum, possibly making landfall as a Category 2, and then it's back into the Gulf, where it could re-strengthen to a Cat 1 hurricane, and then it sort of curves around, possibly right around that Texas-Mexico border, and it's putting down a lot of rain. All right, storm surge, you betcha. Rainfall, it could be, wherever you see that little flash of white in northern Mexico, that's a foot of rain or more. That little black is a foot and a half of rain. That could certainly wobble to the north. For that to move by 100 miles from Mother Nature is nothing. That's a possibility. But the big story right now, for here and now, in our country is the heat. I mean, we have heat advisories that extend anywhere from California, almost a continuous line, to Washington, D.C. And if you look at some of the numbers, biggest number on the board for your day tomorrow is going to be 102 in El Paso, 113 in Phoenix. Just got to show you what we're talking about on Friday, because on Friday, 120 degrees in Palm Springs. But again, all eyes right now on Beryl. It's right just south of the shore of Jamaica, moving toward the Cayman Islands and then the Yucatan. That's the very latest, Adriana. It's all yours.
Thanks so much, Lonnie.
Yeah.
Firefighters in Northern California are dealing with that sweltering heat as they try to get a handle on a fire that is burning out of control right now. It is forcing tens of thousands of evacuations. The governor has declared a state of emergency as the flames threaten homes. CBS's Elise Preston is on the scene tonight in Oroville, about 70 miles north of Sacramento.
Intense flames fanned by strong winds, bone-dry brush, and extreme heat exploded to more than 3,500 acres overnight. The trail of destruction includes cars, homes, and structures. About 28,000 people were forced to flee.
And we had giant embers dropping on the driveway, and I said, okay, we got to go.
Firefighters are going through burned-out neighborhoods looking for hot spots, hoping flames don't reignite and take down homes that are still standing. The Thompson fire is in the same county as Paradise, site of one of the deadliest fires in California history. Today, more than 1,400 firefighters are mounting a full-scale assault, using Lake Oroville, California's second largest reservoir, to make water drops, but also dealing with unforgiving temperatures that are only expected to get hotter in the coming days. It's a nightmare scenario, and this fast-moving fire remains out of control.
I'm just going to sit here for as long as it takes and pray that it's over soon.
Now, this is one of at least 3 homes reduced to ash and rubble. Only a chimney remains standing. As we head into the holiday weekend, area fireworks shows are canceled, but firefighters are concerned illegal fireworks could set off even more destruction. Adriana?
Oh, people have lost everything. Elise Preston, thank you. Americans are on the move this 4th of July with nearly 71 million people expected to hit the roads and the airports this week. CBS's Chris Van Cleve has good news for those filling up at the pump.
Monica McBride is making a pit stop in Maryland after hitting the road early this morning. She's driving from North Carolina to New Jersey, hoping to make it before the worst of the July 4th holiday traffic tonight.
We haven't hit a lot of traffic except for a little bit of slowdown, so we're excited.
AAA projects nearly 61 million Americans will express their independence by driving to their holiday getaway, with prices at the pump expected to be the lowest in 3 years, according to Gas Buddy.
Go ahead.
At the nation's airports, another very busy day. The TSA says it's planning to screen around 2.8 million people today. Since May 23rd, the agency has seen 8 of its 10 busiest days ever. And Sunday is expected to break records, topping 3 million screened for the first time.
This is our Super Bowl.
David Terry oversees LAX for United Airlines.
We start talking about summer travel, back in December and January, and how we can make sure we have the staffing levels we need.
We didn't realize it was going to be a very busy travel weekend, but here we are.
Delta 136, can you confirm that none of the pilots ate any of the food?
It was not a great start to the holiday for passengers on Delta Flight 136 from Detroit to Amsterdam. They ended up in New York early this morning after at least a dozen people got sick from eating chicken apparently contaminated with mold.
Tower, can you confirm the status of medical personnel at our gate?
They should be standing by.
Delta says it sincerely apologizes for that incident. Now, when it comes to the trek home, Sunday will be the busiest here at airports and on the roads. AAA says get driving before 11 a.m. if you want to avoid the worst of the traffic. Airports will also be busy again next Monday, Adriana.
All right, I'm glad I'm staying put. Chris Van Cleve, thank you. Eye on America is next with an innovative approach to help millions of aging veterans. About 1 in 7 senior citizens are veterans. In their later years, many of them face challenges to get the care they need. Now, the Department of Veterans Affairs is exploring a way to help. In tonight's Eye on America, CBS's James Brown reports on an approach that relies on the time-honored idea that there's no place like home.
Chantel Cross and her 2 kids set 3 extra places for dinner.
You want more, Charlie?
And Charles McCoubry, Peter Samaras, and Eckhart Teese couldn't be happier to have a seat at the table.
I like living here.
The 3 men are part of what's called the Medical Foster Home Program,
You gonna play catch with Charlie?
an innovative approach to an old problem,
Oh, we catch it, Pete.
taking care of veterans who need extra care later in life.
Give me what some of the advantages are of living here in a home as opposed to a nursing facility.
It's nice here, and being in a nursing home, they just throw you away. They ignore you. But here we're like part of the family.
All 3 men served in the military in the late 60s and early 70s. Charles in the Navy, Peter and Eckhart in the Army, which is the subject of some good-natured ribbing in their home.
What do you guys like about each other?
Nothing. He's like a brother to me, yeah.
Good job.
Chantel's career began in a nursing home, but she realized she could provide a more comfortable environment in her home.
Very good.
Medical professionals and social workers visit the vets.
I know you're doing it, Charlie.
Chantel also takes them to services outside the home.
The daycare center they go to is wonderful. We take the guys out to the mall, let them do some walking. Somebody might want coffee. We get them ice cream.
Our caregivers treat the veterans as their own family.
Dana Cooper is the VA's Director of Home and Community Care. She oversees the Medical Foster Home Program.
The caregivers have to live in the home with the veteran, and so we really see that family bond and relationship.
It takes a different person to do this, Ms. Cooper.
Yeah.
Why?
I believe that every veteran has a right to remain and age in place and be with people who surround them with love.
Almost half of the veteran population is 65 and over. Nursing homes can cost over $100,000 per year out of pocket. The Medical Foster Program costs vets less than half that. Caregivers receive, on average, $2,800 per month from each veteran living in their home.
Chantel, what do you get out of this?
A lot. It gives me a peace of mind to know that I'm able to help others and give back. I love helping others and I love giving back.
The program began in 2002 in Arkansas, Florida, and Puerto Rico. Today, it's found in 47 states where over 700 veterans receive home care from approximately 500 caregivers. How long do you envision yourself doing this?
Forever. I don't ever want to stop.
Any veteran enrolled in the VA system is eligible for this program.
You understand?
A program that serves as a powerful reminder about the healing power of home. For Eye on America,
Hey, Charlie.
I'm James Brown in Baltimore.
A true American family. We will take a look at some of the most important pieces of American history inside the National Archives. That's next. As we celebrate the country's birthday, now a look at some American treasures. Norah O'Donnell and 60 Minutes have spent the last few months going inside the National Archives, learning about the agency that not only holds the Declaration of Independence and the U.S. Constitution, but millions of other pieces of important history like these, shown to us by one of the archivists, Trevor Plant.
So what do we have here, Trevor?
So these are oaths of allegiance. They happen to be from Valley Forge. So the Continental Congress passed an act in February of 1778. They wanted all commissioned officers to sign an oath of allegiance to the forming United States. This is a very different type of oath because it predates the Constitution. They sent 600 of these pre-printed forms to George Washington to have filled out and returned. So the irony is that Washington's army is coming out of the famous horrible winter at Valley Forge. The Army can barely afford to feed them, clothe them, house them, supply them with arms and ammunition, but they're like, here's all this paperwork we want filled out and returned. So the Army numbered them. So George Washington is number one. As George Washington, Commander-in-Chief of the Armies of the United States of America, do acknowledge the United States of America to be free, independent, and sovereign states, and declare that the people thereof owe no allegiance or obedience to George III, King of Great Britain. So very different than our oath today.
So this is original from 1778?
Yes. And they're in very great, I mean, these are in very good condition.
And so that is George Washington's handwriting and
Yes.
signature?
Correct, yep.
And then here.
So here we have this officer became very popular a couple years ago, Alexander Hamilton. We don't often think of him as Alex Hamilton, but he had signed his name, Alex Hamilton, on his oath. And he was an aide-de-camp to George Washington. So that's what he was doing at Valley Forge.
It's just incredible in 2024 that back in 1778, the paperwork was so important to the government.
Yeah, we're founded on paperwork. Exactly. Yeah.
Right.
Paperwork and penmanship. Norah will have more from inside the archives on 60 Minutes this fall. Heart of America is next.
This portion of the CBS Evening News is sponsored by Fasenra. Visit us at fasenra.com.
Finally, tonight's Heart of America. CBS's David Martin has the story of the newest Medal of Honor recipients who served the Union Army more than 150 years ago. And they gave everything for the country they loved.
He must have been amazingly brave.
Ron Shadrack's distant cousin, Philip Shadrack, was a private in the Union Army who early in the Civil War volunteered for a daring mission deep behind Confederate lines.
We're going to go into enemy territory. We're going to steal a what? A train.
Brad Quinlan has researched the Union raid. 22 men dispatched to steal a train in Marietta, Georgia, and run it north, tearing up tracks and cutting telegraph wires as they went.
It would have cut off extremely important supplies getting to General Lee's army up in Virginia.
As depicted on the silent screen by the great Buster Keaton, the Confederates gave chase and finally caught the runaway locomotive. The raiders fled but were soon caught. Private Shadrack and Private George Wilson were led away in chains to be executed. Today, 162 years later,
it's a long time in coming.
President Biden presented the Medal of Honor to their families. Teresa Chandler is Private Wilson's great-great-granddaughter.
I feel that I'm bringing forward what he fought for.
With his last words, Wilson said what he was fighting for, to keep the states united.
As his executioner is putting the rope around his neck, one day the Stars and Stripes will fly proudly over this ground again.
David Martin, CBS News, The Pentagon.
Privates Philip Shadrack and George Wilson, tonight's Heart of America. And that is the CBS Evening News. For Norah O'Donnell, I'm Adriana Diaz. Good night.